Good afternoon, everyone, or good morning, depending on what time zone you're in. You're in the right place to see what's new for Civil 3D 2022. We're excited about this year's launch and look forward to unveiling this to everyone. Before we get started, just a little bit about me. I've been doing this for quite some time with IMAGINiT, being a professional geek, almost 21 years. It'll be 21 years in September. But prior to that, I worked for a private engineering and surveying firm. And after that, I went to a local municipality for about 3.5 years. So chances are I've kind of been where you guys have been, at some point. I do have my land surveyor license in Virginia. I've got my EIT. I am approved to sit down and take the PE really whenever I want to slow down and study again. So I'm not exactly sure when that'll be. But at IMAGINiT, really I focus on implementing civil engineering, surveying, and data management products for our clients. So if you've been to kind of any of these utilities type presentations in the past, and if this is your first time, number one, welcome. Number two, I would invite you to go and search our YouTube channel and just search utilities for Civil 3D. And we do this, a couple of these presentations every year, and you'll be able to see some of the previous, year's recordings. The reason that I say that is we are up to 18 tools now, and it used to be very easy to fit everything in within the allotted hour time frame. We're getting so many tools, it's starting to make that a little bit difficult. So I promise I'm going to keep the PowerPoint and the slides to a minimum. We will be in the product live, really for as long as we can. I'll show off as many tools as I can. I want to make sure that I hit the highlights and hit the newest tools first. But if we get done, that's awesome. If not, if there's a couple of tools I can't get, just don't have time to get to, feel free to go back and look at some of those other presentations, because I guarantee you that we cover them in those. So this year, we added 3.5 new utilities, and I say 3.5 because there are 3 brand spanking new ones. Is delineated with the blue dots to the left in this list. And we updated and added a little bit of functionality to the create offset points. Right, we've got tools for splitting corridors, points along pipe runs, and a brand new tool that we've created that we call Style Explorer. So let's take a look at some of those. One of the things that from working with clients, and that's really where all of these tools come from, right? The whole goal of these tools is to make, life inside of Civil 3D a little bit easier. And, we've got a team of approximately 15 technical experts that go all across, the United States, Canada, working with different firms and different people. And all the time we hear, well, I really wish it would work like this, or I really wish it would do that. So that's kind of where these tools come from. And we have a way to catalog, those thoughts and internally. And every year, around this time, they will, we take a look and see what we can build. So, really the first things first with these is, they are, really kind of requested, by our clients, for the most part. So, this tool with splitting corridors, was requested, and I think really where it got its origin was we were working with a firm that designed really long river and stream reconstructions. So they would have these 8, 9, 10 mile corridors, and anybody that's worked in a corridor that long that has a complicated assembly with a lot of targeting knows that that can be a challenge at times. So what we ultimately wanted to do was have a way to split it, so that we could turn parts of it on and off for performance reasons, right? So that's what we did. This literally makes an exact, I cringe to say copy, but right? We actually break it. So one corridor becomes two. At an existing location, you can either pick that location or it is transparent command aware. So if you wanted to type in an actual, station, using that particular transparent command, you could snap to it, etc. And that's what the tool does. All targeting gets maintained, and it literally just creates, two corridors out of one. The next new tool is one that we call points along pipe run. And, really anybody that's ever had to do stakeout of utilities, hopefully, you'll start to get excited about this. It does what the name implies. We pick two structures. You can pick the beginning and the end of a run, but you don't have to. And the software will systematically insert point objects, at the insertion point, of the structures in between, right? There is some options for naming and for the description for those points. If we want to, add alignment information to that, we can as well. Right, the last tool, that's brand new, we call Style Explorer, and the way that, we thought about this tool for a long time, internally was XList, right? And it's kind of like XList for civil objects. And the reason we say XList is, if you think about it, so many times when working with Civil 3D users, maybe they'll list, let's just say, a surface object. And what you AutoCAD or Civil 3D returns is just really the layer that the object resides on, the insertion layer of that object. But you can't get to, well, what about the component layers? What layers are, the contours on, major and minor, the break lines, things like that. So that's really the beginning and the origin of this tool, right? And once we built it, we decided, what, it'd be, that's kind of cool in and of itself, but it'd really be cool if we can make edits to it at that point. So that's really, what this utility does. It's a way to very quickly list all the component information that a particular object is utilizing, and then change if you need to change the overall style. I think it's a much faster way to get to that information. Or if you want to make modifications to any of the components, you can do that as well. So the create offset points command, this is one that was added a couple of years ago. And we had a client that we worked with here in the on the East Coast, and they said, what, this is a really great tool. We use it all the time for creating stakeout points for our surveyors. But it'd be a little bit better if we could reference alignment information. So if you're familiar with the command, and we'll show this off in just a little bit, but it creates offset points, along the feature line. Well, sometimes there's an alignment that corresponds or is near that feature line, and sometimes there's not. But what we were able to do was, if there is an alignment and you want to reference stationing off of that alignment, we've added the ability in the functions to be able to do so. Now, probably what, I think I'm most excited about, and this isn't, I didn't list this as a new feature per se, but this certainly took a little bit of development effort to do, is we now have one installer that supports all the versions of Civil 3D that Autodesk supports. Really, so what that means is, from 2022 and then 3 versions back, so from 2019 to 2022, we support. Also, and I think more importantly, is all of these tools are available for all of these versions now. So if you have, if you're still on, let's say 2020, and you're using the 2020 version of our utilities, I would invite you to uninstall that version and install this new version, right? It will still plug into your 2020, and you're going to get all of the new tools that we've released since that 2020 release, right? I bring this up because this is a change for us. The Civil 3D utilities didn't used to work this way. So the way that it used to work was, the 3.5, new utilities that I just, talked about, historically, they would have only been available if you were running 2022. One thing that we certainly understand from working with our clients is that, everybody doesn't, immediately run out and install the brand new version of Civil 3D just because Autodesk released it, right? A lot of times people will stay one version back, 2 versions back. Maybe there's specific project requirements that force you to be, on a little bit of an older version. And we wanted to have a way to make all of these tools available to all of the versions. So we're happy to, to basically support this now. And we certainly invite you that, even though, you might be on 2020, 2021, you can install this version. It will still plug into, the older versions, and you'll have all of the tools available to you. All right, finally, and my last slide before we really get going, if you'd like to find more information about these, and, that could be a couple of different things. If you are a client, if your subscription is through IMAGINiT, these are available to you for free. I invite you to go to our website, IMAGINiT.com, and under the software and under IMAGINiT utilities, there is a way for you to put in your information and download the most up-to-date tools. If you're not our client, there are trials available, and these are available for purchase. But for more information, go to IMAGINiT.com, under software, and then IMAGINiT utilities, and that'll get you in the right spot. So without further ado there, let's get started. And I wanted to really save as much time as I could to working inside of the software, and some of the newer tools first, just to make sure that we get those in and covered. I am working in a drawing here that's got the the view split, and we might as well talk about splitting corridors first. So as I zoom out, this is not a huge corridor, but it's will certainly suffice here. And split corridor will show up right in the middle of the ribbon, and like I said before, it's pretty simple. We're going to it's going to ask to select the corridor, right? Then we get a green glyph to kind of guide at this point. If you want to use transparent commands to make sure you lock right in on a particular station, you can. If you want to use object snaps to make sure you pick in just the right spot, you can. But really, wherever you click, it's going to ultimately rebuild. And now you can see we've got 2 separate versions of that corridor. Right? That's the tool. That's the utility. At this point, maybe it makes sense to kind of turn some of this stuff off for performance reasons. Maybe now that we can data shortcut corridors, right? Now we can shortcut these into different drawings. A lot of this is driven by performance, but that's how that particular utility works. I'm going to zoom in just a little bit, and we've got a handful of structures here. Points along pipe run got added to the points panel, and again, it's going to ask to select 2 structures, right? A lot of times this is probably the beginning structure and the ending structure, but it doesn't have to be. It's going to ask for a description, and this is really up to you. This is going to be the description in each of the points. Now, one of the things that we've implemented into this is we started to think of, well, people might want to somehow reference, the structure name, the network name, and they may even want to reference a station in the description. So you'll see that we have these brackets, right? Use S name and in brackets, to insert a structure name, bracket net bracket for the network name. And if we want to reference alignments, we just need to tag the the checkbox and then select the alignment. And the way that we reference the station name is square bracket, STA. All of this, the utility remembers what you used last. So if you have a standardized naming convention for these, you'll only have to type this in one time, and it'll be there for kind of forevermore, if you will. But what point number do we want to start numbering from? And then if we want to add these to a point group, we might call it pipe stakeout. And simply hitting OK, it will go through, and I'll just pull one of these off so we can see it. Right, manhole 2, the name of the network is STM1, and then there is the alignment stationing to go along with that. Right, the nice thing about this is it inserts it at the insertion point of the structure. So if you are utilizing infrastructure parts editor and some of the newer tools to create gravity networks where you can actually separate the insertion point from the connection point in these structures, if you're using some of our, maybe like our SUDAS pipes library, our brand new VDOT, library, all of these, are built using that technology to where we can insert, curb inlets, at the back of curb that still have the pipes, connect at the center of the structure. This will insert the point at the insertion point, which is, sometimes, but not necessarily, the center of the structure. Right. While we're going along with new features, we'll take care of the last one. First, if you will, Style Explorer. And if you think about the surface that we're looking at here is actually being driven by the corridor. So if I were to click on that, right, it will tell me that it's a surface. But if we were to list this command or list that object, it's only telling me it's on C-topo. It's actually not telling me what are the component layers, for the entities on that surface. So that's really where Style Explorer comes from, right? Just simply being able to click on, instantly it will tell me what style it's using, and then anything that's toggled on in that style, those components will show up. Right, so major contours, minor contours, and for a while, this is really all the command did. Right? And then we had the idea of, well, what if we can make edits to it, right? What if I want to make changes to the major contour color to where, let's make them magenta, right? And just like that, when I hit OK, I think this is exponentially faster than going, all right, borders and contours, settings, surface styles, borders and contours, right click, edit, right? You get the idea here. So that's what we were aiming to do, right? We were also aiming to very quickly be able to change the style, right? If I wanted to change this to something with slope arrows and do a region, we'll see those triangles or those arrows cut on. So that's the last of the new features, but we're excited about Style Explorer. I think hope everybody else will too. Right? Feel free to drop in the comments, what you think about it. All right. So kind of moving on to some other existing tools, and by far and away the Google tools are the most popular, but since I'm already in this drawing already, let's talk about the second most popular tools right now, which are the piping tools. And you'll see that we've got this entire section, this entire ribbon panel dedicated to gravity pipes. And one of the first ones that we wrote was swap multiple parts. Just a way to very quickly, pick a whole bunch of pipes or structures and change their size all at one time. So if I were to hit swap multiple and pick those four pipes, and let's see, they're 24 inches. Yeah, if we were to make them like a 30-inch pipe and we say, okay, and just that fast, it went through and changed all 4 of them, all the annotations updated in plan and in profile view. One of the more recent piping utilities that we created was quick edit pipes. And if you're familiar with quick edit feature lines, this command was really designed to work similarly. If you're not familiar with quick edit feature lines, what it allowed you to do, was kind of hover over a feature line, and it had tools with little glyphs that would allow you to adjust elevations and slopes and things like that. Well, we wanted to bring that to pipes, and we did that. And I'll zoom in here so that you can see the green arrow, right? And basically, if I hover in the center of the pipe, and notice the direction of that triangle, right? It's telling me what the slope is, in that direction, right? If I kind of move my cursor to the other side of it, you'll see it changes to, 1.5%. But the idea here is to be able to very quickly, make changes. If I click, it asks me what's the new slope. If I say -2, just like that, you see that it adjusts in plan and in profile view. Right, we don't have to do it just in plan view. We can absolutely jump to profile view. This was an update that we made last year, for this command to be able to work in profile view as well. So, move in this direction. Let's see, it's -1.57. So if I wanted to make this -1, it will update accordingly. We can also change inverts of the pipes. So if I get near the edge of a particular pipe and click on it, let's just say we want to make this 616, and it updates accordingly. All right, so some of the utilities in between, right? Those were some of the newer ones that we created, but pipe grading and pipe elevation, even pipe invert, all of these are certainly very popular as well. Pipe grading, really almost kind of does like some of the old LAN desktop pipe grading tools used to do, right? And what it allows us to do is, if I were to pick one structure, pick a second structure, right? It's going to allow me to force a constant grade, for those pipes, between the structures. It's going to ask me where I want to start elevation-wise. Let's say 621. Then it's going to ask me for a grade. So if I wanted to make the entire pipe run at 2%, I can. Last question is about node drops, and I'm going to have a 0.1 node drop, and you'll see just like that. We get some updates, and those pipes adjust accordingly. Pipe elevation, really allows us to raise or lower a run, right? So I'll pick those same points. It's going to say, hey, do you want to raise or lower? So let's lower this 2 feet. And you'll see that it adjusts accordingly. And then honestly, pipe invert is almost kind of the inverse of pipe grading. Where with inverts, what it allows us to do is pick those same two parts, and it's going to ask me what are the starting and ending inverts that I ultimately want to hold. So I might say 621 here to start. To end, let's make this an even 612, and we'll still do that 10th node drop, and it will go through and adjust and figure out what the slopes of those pipes need to be to match those criteria and those conditions. So the last of the piping tools that I'll talk about is one that we introduced last year called pipe clearance utility. And we had a client that we were working with, say, what, it'd be really great if I could, for my crossings, figure out what's the distance in between. how much, how much clearance, if any, do I have between these two pipes? So that's what pipe clearance utility does. And picking on it, the first thing I'm going to do is go into options just to show everybody that what's configured for my particular note label isn't everything, right? If you want the lowest, if you want to kind of annotate in this label the lowest point on the top of that pipe, the highest point on the bottom of the pipe, if you'd like to show the network names, if you would like to include pipe names, right? You can certainly do that. We make all of that available. My particular label is just going to show the distance between the pipes and the location of the crossing. So it's going to ask me for the first pipe, which I will select, the second pipe. And then what we do is we just place the, and this is a note label. We place that right at the location of the crossing. And you'll see that, not only do we give you a northing and easting of that crossing point, we also give you the approximate vertical clearance as well. Right. The good thing is this is a note label, so it's going to respond to scale changes. It's going to, dynamically adjust, should you change the size or change the scale of the viewport. All right. I think I hit all of those, and I will jump over to by far and away our most popular utility. And if you think back, some people are new to Civil 3D and kind of take for granted some of the things that are in there, while older people know some of the history that that's gone into it. And if you think way back to Civil 3D version 2012. That was the last version of Civil 3D that contained Google Earth integration. And ultimately what happened was, I think some attorneys got involved and Autodesk removed the Google Earth integration from Civil 3D in 2013, right? It didn't take them really until about 2015 to really bring in live maps, and the Bing imagery that we still use today. But there was a period of time when there was nothing, and people were asking, well, is there a way to get that feature and function back? So, back with the 2014 release of the IMAGINiT utilities, we created a tool to import Google imagery. Right, the difference between our tool and that tool, one main positive difference is you don't have to have any other software installed. Right, the way that routine used to work was you had to have Google Earth installed, and you would open up Google Earth, you would kind of pan and zoom around to the extents of the area that you wanted to bring into Civil 3D, and then you would run this routine, and it would kind of suck it out of Google Earth and bring it into Civil 3D. Well, ours works a little different. We're not actually using Google Earth integration or Google Earth APIs from Google. We're using Google Maps, which is the exact same maps that if you use Google Maps on your cell phone that it uses. But the nice part about it is you don't have to have anything else installed. And what will happen is, just by selecting import from Google, it will open up a dialog box. We sense the coordinate system of your drawing. We understand exactly, where your georeferenced entities are, and we zoom to that area in this box. Right now, you can pan around, you can search if you need to, but by rule, right now, all you need to do is zoom in and zoom out, because this is perfectly centered from your drawing extents or these view extents. So if we were to zoom in just a little bit here, right, we'll see. And one thing that I do, and I do this really on purpose, we show north as straight up in our dialog box. If you notice in my drawing, my view is twisted to where, north is kind of pointing to the right, and that's okay. The routine will take care of all of that. So we've got some options. What do we want to import? We can import just the image. We can import terrain information, or we can import the image and the terrain information. Right? I like to point out that Autodesk brought back some imagery. They implemented live maps, and it uses Bing. And for some people that works just fine. For others they prefer Google. And this is an option, but the one thing that never did come back was the import from Google Earth, old routine, legacy routine. It could also import terrain information, right? So we're able to hook into that terrain information as well with this, right? We'll say okay. One thing here is we're going to prompt just to ask for a grid spacing. Right, we're going to query Google servers at the intervals specified here, to bring in points. And the only thing that I will tell people is, right, we're talking about USGS level accuracy for the surface information. Think about a quad map and how accurate those are. So there's a point of diminishing return if you set these intervals really, really small. Your surface is not going to be any better, and it's going to take a lot longer to bring that data in. So you can see here, it tells me that it's approximately 123 points. All right, I'm going to say, okay, it will go out and ping Google servers, retrieve that information. What we do with it is we go ahead and create a surface out of it. We send the image and the surface, all of it to the back. The style that we pick is the default style that are set in your drawing command defaults. And as you can see, that was pretty quick. The image itself is stored in the same location as your DWG file. So you will note if you try to run this command, if you haven't saved your drawing, it will make you save the drawing first, and that's just so that we can get a location for the image. And it will also, if you don't have a coordinate system set, it will force you to select the coordinate system ahead of time. All right, so kind of moving on from the Google tools, but you can see it's now a surface. We can do anything that we want to with it. We name it Google Terrain and some numerics off to the side, and that's really just so that if you were to run this command again, the surface that it would import would be unique. But you can rename this, you can restylize it, you can do whatever you want to, with this particular surface. All right, so let's hit offset points. Just because I want to make sure that I show the enhanced utility, and then we'll start to click through a couple more of them, time permitting. And so, really the idea behind create offset points was, our original intent was for stakeout purposes, right? To help surveyors, create stakeout points, at some given offset, based on like a road design, without really having to know all the ins and outs of corridor modeling. So that's the origin of where it came from. We'll select create offset points. And if we zoom in, it's just going to ask to select a feature line. And I've already got this feature line extracted from my corridor model. And it's going to ask some questions. All right, the first thing it's going to ask me for is an offset distance. So, that's a back of curb feature line that I selected. So I'm gonna stake that out. Let's say 10 feet to the right. I want stakeout points every 25 feet. Right, and then it's going to ask me for a point description. So I may want to do 10-foot offset back of curb. where do I want to start numbering my points? Maybe I want to start numbering at 100. How do I want to control elevations? And this is where it's always amazing to see what I'm going to say our users of these tools, do with them, because our original intent with this was for survey stakeout. However, what we're starting to find is users, will use them for grading. And that's because we can offset these things by a given grade, by a given slope, a relative offset, or even to an absolute elevation. And, it would probably be a webcast for a different time, but that has some pretty interesting, kind of grading implications and things that you can do there. I'll just say by feature line elevation, I'm going to add these points to a point group, and I don't have any, so I'm just going to say offsets. And then I am going to create a point at the PCs and the PTs as well. All right, so this is what the routine's always done. What we've added is the ability to incorporate alignment stationing to it. And honestly, it's the exact same way that we do it with the pipe tool and annotate the pipe tool. So if I say add alignment stations, right, I have to pick that alignment for starters. And then maybe let's come in and in parentheses, let's put that station in there. And just remember, for station, to do the station, you have to insert everything that's over here. So it's going to be, square brackets left and right, and then on the inside, capital STA, right? And what we do is when the routine runs, if it sees that, it will interpret that to go out and pull the alignment station. Right, so we will say okay, and it will work for just a second, and you can see the 10-foot off, offset back a curb, but you can see all of the stationing that's going along with that. So from here, export those points to a data collector, or some other tool, for your survey stakeout. All right, moving on, and we're doing pretty good with time here. So, one of the very first tools that we ever wrote, and this kind of released with the Google tool, and the 2014 release of these utilities, is a feature called auto offset. And what auto offset does, and what it was meant for, is for people that are having to kind of perform and annotate strip topos, where maybe you survey collect everything, within the right of way of a particular road, and you have to call out, and annotate, any objects that fall within that right of way. So, if we run the routine, these are, we are creating civil 3D objects here. So, right, we're going to pick some alignment styles, and these are label styles, for the left and for the right. I will say that, just to get an idea of how these styles are built, we do include a sample drawing that has both of these left and right in it. So you'll be able to see, how those styles work. We need to pick an alignment. We need to pick an offset distance, and this is going to be the offset distance for the label that it creates. And as far as what side we're going to label on, we can basically label point side means if the object is on the left-hand side of the alignment, it's going to put the label on the left. If it's on the right-hand side of the alignment, it's going to put the label on the right. Obviously, all on left and all on right do just that. So I'm going to say we need to pick these points. So we'll say okay here. It's going to ask me to pick the points, and I'm just going to do something like this and hit enter. And you'll see what it does is it goes through and works and annotates, point number, alignment, offset, and then what the particular feature is, right? And we probably normally wouldn't call out toes of slope there, but you know, mailboxes, utility poles, absolutely. I will say that if you've got points on top of points, it will do stuff like this. But you know, the good thing about this is you know, you get the idea, or you get the ability to move that label at that point, you know, where you want it to be. Right. Along with this, one of the older utilities was, you know, we had a client that what they wanted to do was, you know, associate point list information, point number, northing, easting, elevation, description, but they also wanted to associate a station and an offset along with that. So that's what the idea behind Point Station Report is. Right, Civil 3D, you could do it. I mean, you've always been able to do it kind of a couple of ways now with Civil 3D. Kind of the way that's been around for quite some time, you know, is to print out two different reports and then kind of manually splice them together. That's you know, that's always, you know, subject to you know, to user error. One of the newer ways to do it is, you know, very recently Autodesk acquired and released Project Explorer. Project Explorer has a way to do that as well. However, you have to have a collection to have access to Project Explorer. People that just have individual Civil 3Ds don't get access to Project Explorer. So, right, that is what this utility will do, though. Is, you know, we need to figure out a way to select the points, and we can select all of them. I can window them if I want to select just a point group or, you know, a numeric range. You know, we could do that. I'm just going to tell it window select here in a minute. And then what is the output going to be? Do I want to output to an Excel file and immediately, you know, print it out, something like that? Or do I want to go to an HTML file? If we show customize here, here's where we can pick what shows up in that report. Right, in my case, point number, northing, easting, elevation, description, station, offset, but you can order these however you want, and there's a whole host of other you know, point data that we don't show, or that I'm not taking advantage of right now. But we'll say, okay, it's going to ask me to where I want to save this file, so I'll just throw it on the desktop. Do I want to view it? Yes. And just like that, we are able to see the station and the offset along with the appropriate point number information. All right. I am only going to do probably this one more because I want to save I want to make sure that we have time for questions. But the last utility that I'll show is profile from points. And what we were aiming for was to, if you think about how to go from points, you know, to a profile, you know, and to think about the steps, you know, that are involved, right? So if you've got a whole bunch of points, you know, the first thing you would have to do is have some kind of a surface, and then you'd have to draw an alignment, and then sample. Then you could create the profile, right? Well, that's an awful lot of steps. And what we're looking at, these are soundings. I live in Virginia Beach, Virginia. This is the Lesnar Bridge and Chicks Beach area, if you're familiar with our area here. But you know, this area is notorious for shoaling, and the Army Corps of Engineers and the City of Virginia Beach constantly keep it dredged out. So, you know, they are all the time, you know, running soundings just to see, you know, what the bottom is starting to look like. And right, everywhere that there is a red X, that represents a point location. Now, just to make this a little bit easier to show, I'm going to turn that off. And what we want to do is, you know, in a much faster manner, be able to, all right, what is the ocean, you know, what is it doing, in a particular area. So if I say profile from points, it's going to ask me how I want to select the points, and again, all different ways to pick them. I'm going to say select in drawing in this case. Right now, we still have to have an alignment in a profile, right? I can't get around that. However, I can automatically create it for the user. So all we're prompting for here are names. So we may just call this beach and beach EG, for that profile name. And here we're just going to pick some styles that we want to apply. And now it's asking me to pick the points, and this will be a little bit tedious, and I promise I'm not going to pick a whole bunch of them or a lot, but point here is I'm going to pick them in the order in which I want the profile created, and I'm just kind of scattered and picking, right? So I'll say okay, and you'll see what we do is we go ahead and draw that alignment, and now it's asking for the insertion point of that profile, and just like that, that profile is here. It's using the appropriate styles. This is a permanent profile, if you will. It's not like quick profile or anything like that, right? If we reach in, it's going to be there, it's going to stay. But think of maybe not beach soundings, but maybe your survey crew went and topoed a whole lot of ditch center lines or something like that, and you'd like to see a quick profile of what those ditch center lines are doing. This is a perfect tool for that. All right, so with that, I think I'm going to jump out of the software and start to wrap this up for Q&A. Before we do that, again, certainly thank you to everyone for joining, spending part of your morning or afternoon with this. I hope it's beneficial, and I hope certainly that everyone is as excited as we are about the new utilities. You'll download them and try them out. If you have any questions, feel free to all of my contact information is right here. If you've got suggestions for, hey, it'd be really cool if Civil 3D would do this, please, I love to get those kinds of emails. If you have kind of support-based questions, I'm probably not the right person for that, but our support center is, and that email address is support@rand.com.